Hi everyone, we're back and we're going to be talking about EGAD here with Bailey Sostek. It's a game engine IDE.
Yes.
Hi, you want to tell us a little bit about the project?
Sure. So my name is Bailey Sostek, as you mentioned. The project that I worked on was originally a framework that I was developing to allow students to create games in the Perlenspiel game engine, which is a game engine created by Professor Brian Moriarty here. And it was originally designed to allow them to make games much faster. But throughout the development process, we realized that with a few modifications, we could really turn it into a agnostic framework that would just host a bunch of web pages in a grid and allow them to talk to one another. So it became a bigger project throughout development, and it sort of evolved to the point where you can use it for more than just Perlenspiel at this point. And that's pretty cool.
Can you give an example of one of those uses? Or
Yeah.
some of those uses?
So since it is a grid of web pages that allows the web pages to talk to one another, one application is automated user testing. So if you actually have a website and you want to do testing, you can have a web page and send commands to it to get it into a predicted state, and then actually take like screenshots of it and just manually check that it is in the state that you predict it to be in. So it doesn't even necessarily need to be games. Another thing that I've added to it recently is the ability for you to host a WebGL canvas inside of it and send commands to that. So if you wanted to make, say, a game engine or display anything that targets WebGL, you could just put that in one of the grid cells and expand it from there.
So what's like the biggest benefit for somebody to use this system as a programmer?
I'd say the biggest benefit for it is that it is pre-built and it has functionality built into it that allows you to resize windows. Like, you don't necessarily need to lay out an application and tweak CSS for hours to get it to look just how you want. It's really designed to create a grid, put the content you want in it, and then resize it, scale it to have it be visually represented how you want it to be. And it's really just a tool for making other tools. And I've tried to make it as intuitive to create new content as I can, and I think I'm getting there with the documentation. Like I've really tried to document it as well as I could throughout development. All the documentation is on the open source repository as well, so I'm really hoping that if people try to adapt it, they'll go through that. And also read the paper I wrote too, because that's 30 pages of how you can get up and running with it. So
You mentioned this is on open source repro. Have you gotten good feedback from the community?
It's been on there for a month. I only have 4 people who have like cloned it or looked at it so far. But one of my close friends who's a little bit more node savvy than me looked through it and said that it was really cool and he wants to try to mess around with it. So I'm looking forward to see what projects other people try to make with it. Yeah.
One of the best ways to get a library like this out there and get people to use it is to have a really cool demo of it.
Yeah.
And you were showing us earlier the demo of
Yeah.
I think we got something right
behind us of Perlenspiel. And so can you talk about like what the process was to develop that in your framework?
Yeah, so the video that is playing behind us is in real time creating a Perlenspiel editor in 3 minutes. I sped the video up so it's only a minute, but the pre-built content that I've chosen to put in the engine is really targeted at making IDEs currently, because that's what the initial project was before we switched to a more agnostic open source approach. So behind me, I just create a code editor. I tell it that it's targeting JavaScript, and then I create a display which is pointing to an HTML file that's reading that JavaScript file. So they're talking to each other in real time, and it's really smooth to create an application like that.
What sort of, I guess we should go with the hang-ups question. What you run into, what surprises, where have you had roadblocks that have compromised your vision?
So this was actually a really difficult problem to solve. So the web pages are all unique, and they're all going to have different load times associated with them. So my biggest problem has been managing the synchronization of those modules while they're loading. So one of the new features of JavaScript ES6 is async await, which allows you to essentially assert that a piece of code is a promise and will take a certain amount of time to execute, and wait for it to execute and actually block all other execution. So my hardest challenge that I ran into was having certain I can't speak right now, sorry. Having certain web pages in grid cells that require other grid cells to be loaded and having no way to know that they are. So I had to create a synchronous blocking loop that would initialize them one after another in the order that they are referenced. And I had to write some code that like detected what order you're trying to initialize them in to assert that that was the order that they would then be initialized in. But that was definitely the biggest challenge I ran into, and I think it was a really cool solution. That's also unique to the language. I wouldn't have been able to use that solution if I wasn't using ES6, which was cool.
So this is some pretty heavy-duty engineering and design. What are you're about to graduate?
Yeah.
What are you hoping to do over the course of the next couple of years with this? Not with the project, but with your skills.
With my skills, I would really love to make game engines work under the hood at a company doing something. I have a couple, contracting positions that I'm doing on the side currently, but I don't have something big that I'm going to be working on full time yet. So future's a little bit open, but if I could pick anything, it would totally be making game engines. That's really my passion.
There aren't very many engine makers these days.
No.
This industry's kind of been swallowed up by Unity and Unreal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on using other people's engines?
So I really, really love that Unreal has all the C++ support under the hood.
Yep.
Because you can totally add your own nodes to it. You can do like Wise integration.
Oh yeah, you can rip the whole thing apart.
Yeah. So
For better or worse.
I think that's probably the route that I'll end up going, because like you said, I think the only engine that's like really big and trying to be developed is Amazon's Lumberyard. They forked CryEngine and are trying to develop that into their own thing. So
Well, there's a few, and then there's plenty of proprietary ones too. But it's as awesome as it is to be an engine builder. Oftentimes you're compromised at wherever you go to work, especially if it's a bigger studio.
Yeah.
By someone else's vision of the engine.
I know,
who's 20 years old.
I don't expect to jump in and have design.
You could, I mean, that's. I've worked with quite a few engine builders, and they start just like this.
Yeah.
It's just like keep on doing it, and they never stop. And then eventually somebody else is complaining about their vision. But,
There's new tech every day,
Yeah.
I found it really interesting that you picked like the JavaScript like WebGL niche. Like, I think having a niche like that allows you to really explore engine design really well. Like when I was younger, it was mobile was the new thing, and so that was where I got the engine design niche. So it's interesting that you found that particular location.
I'm really happy with it. I think the coolest thing is that it's so deployable, because you're writing for one target. You know? And then anything that can run JavaScript and HTML, you can show your game on. So.
Yeah, so everything.
Yeah. Anything, yeah.
That's perfect. Are you, question for the future, are you hoping that students in subsequent years are going to be using your framework?
I think that would be very cool. I've heard of a couple interests that students here have, not necessarily for class, but just as side projects. And I think Professor Moriarty has a couple ideas on using it for Lisp, as like a Lisp interpreter and writing some stuff like that. So I'm excited to see where other people, professors and students, take it in the future.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. We would like, well, you already asked the question of what you're doing going forward.
Yeah.
So we need like a retrospective question. Why this project?
Why this project? Okay. Good question. So I said that this is a really unique opportunity that I have right now to pursue a project over the course of a year like this. And I'm not going to have it again. So I really wanted to pick something worthwhile. And I know that JavaScript ES6 is really, really highly used in the industry. It's just getting picked up. There are all sorts of libraries that incorporate it, and it's just highly desired. And it was a skill that I didn't know. And I thought that it would be very valuable to take the time to actually learn it on my own time. I have a year to, struggle through it.
That's a smart use of your time here.
Yeah, really get to a point where I have a good understanding of it. So that's why I chose to do this unique project over the course of a year. Like you said, I could use another engine and just have this up and running quickly, but I wanted to do it on my own.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right.
So we start by creating a new grid, which is a 2x1 window, and we are going to create a JavaScript editor linked to the file game.js, and we're going to create a new web view, which is also pointing to the game.js file. So when we run the application, on the left side we get the code, on the right side we get the output. So you can see that the output has the live Perlinspiel game, and the left side has the code. Now here we're going to link the editor's save function to the Perlinspiel instance's refresh call. So now whenever we make a change to the code and save the code, the game will update and we can see the change in real time. To further illustrate this functionality, I'm going to change the colors on the cube so that the front face is cyan and the back face is red.